Alright, so today I want to talk about fried chicken, in particular the crispiest, crunchiest fried chicken out there, and by that I mean Korean fried chicken. Now this recipe is for people who are serious about fried chicken, and in today's episode I'm actually going to show you how to make two different versions, one with a sweet and spicy sauce and the other with a seasoned salt. As always, exact measurements will be in the description, and with all that being said, let's make some fried chicken. I'm going to be using whole chicken thighs for this because they're easily the best cut because they pack a ton of flavor and are really hard to overcook. So the first thing we're going to need to do is debone them. All you'll need is a good sharp chef knife for this. A boning or filleting knife will absolutely work, but if you have limited tools, this is your best bet. We're going to start by finding the part of the bone that connects to the hip joint. This will show you exactly where the length of the bone runs. Take the tip of your knife and just make quick shallow cuts along the side of the bone. Then taking your thumb and index finger, gently poke a hole under the bone to begin to separate it. Next, take the tip of your knife through the hole you just made and slice along underneath until you separate the hip joint from the thigh. We want to save as much of the thigh meat as possible, so in order to do this, take the edge of the blade and use it to scrape away all the thigh meat, still attached to the bone. You don't want to scrape so hard as to dull your knife, but firm enough to scrape all the way down to the bone. Keep doing this until the bone is clean and all you're left with is just a small portion still attached to the thigh, where the knee joint is. Give the bone a gentle tug to make it easier to see where the remaining thigh meat is still attached, then simply slice along the joint until the bone is fully separated from the thigh. If there are any small pieces of cartilage still attached, just clean them off. On a side note, never ever throw away any chicken scraps or bones. Stick them in a Ziploc bag and freeze them. Then when you have a good amount stored up, use them to make homemade stocks or soups. So a chicken thigh has two basic parts, a thick part and a thin part. Take your knife and separate both halves. In order to have consistent sized pieces, I like to cut the thin part in half and the thick part into thirds. This will yield 5 even-sized pieces per thigh. We'll also be leaving the skin on because the skin has a lot of flavor and will add to the overall crispiness and juiciness of the chicken. For this next step, we'll be doing what's called a dry brine. Place your cut chicken into a mixing bowl and to that add about a tablespoon of kosher salt and sugar. This will not only season the chicken, but ensure it stays tender and juicy. If you like your chicken extra hot, you can always add some gochugaru or cayenne pepper at this point. Give the chicken a good mix until everything is thoroughly coated, then place in the fridge for at least an hour up to overnight. While the chicken is brining in the fridge, we'll make our sauce. Heat a small saucepan on medium heat, and to that add 1/4 cup of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of Japanese mirin, a few drops of sesame oil, 1 teaspoon of Chinese fermented black rice vinegar. You can substitute malt vinegar if you can't find any, but it's pretty widely available. 1/4 cup of Korean rice syrup, or 1/8 of a cup of golden corn syrup, since they're similar, but rice syrup is a lot less sweet. 1 tablespoon of gochujang. You can add more if you like your fried chicken spicy. 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, and 3 large garlic cloves crushed or minced. Then season with salt and freshly cracked black pepper. Allow the sauce to simmer on medium heat for 3 to 4 minutes. Try not to reduce the sauce too much as it will continue to thicken as it cools. The sauce will be done when you can wipe part of it off of a spoon and the sauce doesn't start sliding down. Next, we'll make the batter. In a large mixing bowl, add 1½ cups of all-purpose flour, a half a cup of cornstarch, a half a cup of panko breadcrumbs, 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, and a generous pinch of salt. Whisk all of the dry ingredients together. We'll be adding some Korean soju to the batter, which is the national drink of Korea. It's similar to vodka or gin minus the flavor. It's also a lot sweeter but has a 20% alcohol content. If you can't get any soju, just use plain vodka, a light beer, or omit the alcohol altogether. While continuously whisking, slowly add some soda water until the batter starts to come together, making sure to scrape around the sides of the bowl to ensure everything is incorporated. You want the batter to have the consistency of a slightly runny pancake batter. You want it on the runnier side because the panko will cause the batter to thicken more as it sits. Once the batter is done, we'll go ahead and set up a breading station. For this, you'll need a bowl with cornstarch, a bowl with the wet batter, and a bowl of all-purpose flour for dusting. At this point, you can pull your chicken from the fridge and drain off any juices that have formed because of the brine. It's better to have the chicken cold for this, as well as the liquids we added to the batter. This will make the final crust really crispy. Working one piece at a time, dredge the chicken in cornstarch and shake off any excess. Then dredge the chicken in the batter. If it gets too thick, add a little bit more soju or soda water just until you're able to work with it again. Shake off as much of the excess batter as you can. Then toss the chicken in all-purpose flour until it's lightly coated. Once all your chicken is battered, we're ready to start frying. Using a Dutch oven or large heavy-bottom pot, heat about 2 inches of a neutral oil like canola or vegetable to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Working in batches so as not to overcrowd the pot or reduce the temperature too much, slowly add your chicken. To do this as safely as possible, hold the chicken until it is just above the oil to prevent splashing when dropped, then slowly shake it back and forth before letting go. Always make sure you place things away from you, never toward. Continue to fry the chicken until a crust forms and it just barely starts to get a brown color, about 3 to 4 minutes per batch. We're going to be frying this twice, so don't worry about it being fully cooked or pale and anemic looking. Using a spider or tongs, place the chicken on a resting rack. If you don't have a resting rack, a baking sheet lined with paper towel will work, but I recommend a resting rack because it allows the oil to completely drain off. Once all of the chicken has been fried, heat the oil to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and working with the coldest batch first, fry the chicken a second time until it's nice and golden brown, about another 3 to 4 minutes. Then place on a resting rack and allow to cool just slightly. For half of the fried chicken, we're going to toss it in a mixture of gochugaru and sea salt. You can make this pretty easily just using a mortar and pestle. You're also going to want to do this while the chicken is still hot and has a small amount of oil still on it to give the salt mix something to stick to. Place the fried chicken in a bowl and top it with a bit more of the salt mix. Heat up the pan with the sauce just until it becomes liquid again, and pour over the other half of the chicken, tossing it while you pour to make sure every nook and cranny gets coated. This chicken is so crispy that even after sitting in the sauce for over an hour, it still retains its crunch, making it ideal for saucy fried chicken. Garnish the chicken with some thinly sliced scallions and some toasted sesame seeds, and you're done. This batter is so versatile that it's great for chicken wings and fish and chips as well, and just listen to that crunch. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Leave a like and comment too, and while you're at it, check out my other videos as well. You can also follow me on Instagram for more content.